Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. An interesting video, a video that I'm not sure actually anything will come of it, but we're going to talk more about Albedo and the general consensus that her kit is just not that great. There are positives that you can take from it. There are negatives that you can also take from it. But I wanted to make this a discussion, and at the end, then in this video, there's also a poll that is currently going on that I will discuss in greater detail. But if you are not aware, because all you care about is you're a new player and it's like, oh, Overlord Albedo's waifu, awesome, and you summon for her, and you're not truly aware of what makes her not a great unit versus a great unit, I will give very brief details here. So the fact that she is AoE does not matter. Like, that's fine. You can find uses for AoE units now in a lot of use cases. Valor Cup certainly being one of them. So that this is fine. Her second skill. Let's talk about her second skill, the Despair effect. So both Ainz and Albedo have the Despair effect, and we can like 90% assume that Shoutir, when she comes out next week, will also have a version of Despair. So one charge of Despair deals 5% of the target's attacks. So if the enemy has 100 attack, you're going to do 5 damage to them passively every turn. 5. Awesome. Okay? And then obviously that scales up higher and higher. So that's not a great effect right there. And then the second part is it lowers the enemy's ult resistance by 5% up to 100. For both these numbers, it can go 100%. So again, if you have 100 attack, if you cap this out by using it 20 times, it will do 100 damage. Not great. 100% ult resistance down, that is pretty impactful. That's pretty good. But there are ways to make, to go higher than that with other units. So this part, it's a bit low, but fine. This part is terrible. 5% of the attack damage is not great, especially when we have a direct counterpart who does passive damage in the Vengeance team, who is doing 50% of a target's attack in passive damage. And this is times 3. This skill adds 3 stacks, so it's 150% of the target's attack. Because it's triple the stack in one skill, versus Albedo, who's doing it 1 stack at a time. So the Despair effect is not great. Both Ainz and Albedo have a third effect right here. Albedo increases green orb ult gauge, which is good for a green team, and then Ainz does green protection gauge increase, which again is good for a green team. Those parts I have no problem with. It's just the actual Despair effect is pretty not great. And then her second skill particularly is there are positives, there are negatives to it. So it is a guaranteed stun, which is universal if there is a stage that you can stun, because some stages, like what we have currently, the current beatdown battle, does not have any kind of stun resistance. So you can freely stun Inferno 3, and I literally just did that in earlier today's video, where I stun locked Leon for like 15 or 20 turns or something, and I eventually killed him, because you can stun him. He doesn't have any stun resistance. But as a newer player, in newer content, a lot of those stages you cannot stun. So, high level Crucible, I think you can stun, which is nice. This Rimuru, you cannot stun. You cannot stun this Rimuru on Crucible 100. All right. The conquests, now that they took out the EX difficulty, you can stun Master Conquest, and Master Conquests are going to be the gatekeep for power levels for early game players. But then after you do that, you go on to Tempered Edge, and these stages you need specific teams, and a lot of them, or most of them, you cannot stun unless you bring a specific unit to negate this 100%. And like, the guaranteed stun is not as useful for newer players as it is older players who have already probably beaten these stages. So the stun can be used. It also cannot be used in certain scenarios. And then the stun strike 40% for Stern of Spirit and Wholehearted Devotion. Stun strike 40% is not that impactful a buff, for all intents and purposes. 40% stun strike is literally you give yourself an extra 40% attack buff on the condition that the target is stunned. Like, that's it. It's not like a multiplicative buff where it's 40 times a million times 20,000 times whatever. It's just 40% extra attack. It's calculated very, very similar to just a normal attack buff. So it's not hugely impactful. And 40%, if you're looking at a typical stacking team, like the second anniversary team, is a stacking team, just like what we have for Rimuru and Ainz right now, where it's a stacking team. You're stacking buffs, you're stacking element attribute attack, you're raising your skill cap, you're giving yourself extra points on orbs. Like, that is the same thing that second anniversary Lumi does. She's, stacking attack on certain characters, she's giving synergy rate, she's giving you extra skill point increase, she's raising your skill cap. Like, they do almost the same thing. But a 40% stun strike skill is exactly what New Year's of 2023 Raphael has a whole year ago, which, a year in a gacha game is a long time for power creep. So right here, chance to stun a single target 100%, and then increases New Year's Blessing or Otherworld Legend for stun strike 40% for 2 turns. Like, this is 2 turns. This is a better skill. New Year's Blessing and Otherworld Legend are debatable whether or not they're better or worse categories, forces, whatever you want to call it, but this is, for all intents and purposes, the same skill. And it was put on the DPS unit of last year, who was also stacking extra stun strike, right? So it works for this team because you're stacking on top of the 40%. Albedo, like, the 40% is not super impactful, right? There are so many other units you can bring on the Overlord team than Albedo to make it do more damage that it's actually kind of laughable. It's actually kind of bad. So that's the huge problem with Albedo, is that her kit is unnecessarily restricted, being limited to stages that you can stun, and these 2 categories, which are not super great categories, and by not having a huge multiplier. If this was like 100%, or at least 80% stun strike, then we'd be talking or something. But it's not, it's 40. And then the despair effect we've already discussed is not great. Is just not great. So Albedo as a whole is not a good character. And a lot of the community has reacted in a negative way towards Albedo, at least the global community. I'm not aware of the JP players. I'm going to ask them on Twitter later on today and see how they kind of feel about it. But I know a lot of the global players are not happy with Albedo's kit. And we have this. Alara is one of the community managers that does the global dev diaries, like the ones that, when the JP does their live streams, there's a global version that comes out like 15 minutes later. Alara is one of those people that the VTubers, characters that hosts that and explains the information. And she posted this today, very early in the morning. Hello, since I've got feedback from multiple of you about Albedo's kit, I wanted to get a better understanding of the amount of people that feel this way. React with happy face if you're happy with the kit, react with stone face if you're okay and you're kind of neutral about it, and react with some kind of freaky face that I don't know if you're unhappy and would like to see it changed. No promises, just to get the numbers though. So we have 7 people who think it's fine. We have 17 people that don't really care. And we currently have 194 players that do not like that kit. So I'm going to, this is the main Slime Discord, not my personal Discord, but the main Slime Isekai Memories Discord that has a lot more members than mine. And at least 194 people do not like this kit. So if you are part of that Discord, I suggest you go in and react to it, or join it and react to it. That way we can give Alara, who works for Bandai, right? She's putting out the dev diaries. She works for Bandai. She's a community manager. So, and that's just what she's doing. She's managing the community and our unhappiness with the kit. Now, again, no promises to get it changed. It's just give numbers, hopefully to give to the developers and be like, hey, the entire global side doesn't like this. Like, just putting it out there. So I will attempt to link the Slime community Discord into the video description. I will also post my own poll that looks exactly like this on my YouTube channel. And then you guys can also vote there. And then maybe I could send those stats to Alara in the Discord and she could take both of them. It might be repeats, but hey. If we can at least let the developers know that we don't like this kind of character, we don't like this kind of kit in a 2024 collab unit that people have been hyped for, because honestly, Albedo is just not a good unit. Like, in my personal opinion, Albedo is not a good unit. Not good enough for 2024, not good enough for the Overlord collab, and just straight up, just not. She's not it. That is my opinion. You're very welcome to have your own. It's a free country, but I would suggest everybody, if they have access to it or able to, please, cast your vote here. Cast your vote in my own poll that will go up when this, probably earlier than this video goes up, honestly. But let's let the developers know that we're not happy, or you're neutral, or you like the kit. But this is feedback that's being gathered by a Bandai representative. So let's make sure we take advantage of that. So, vote in the Discord, vote on my channel, and let me know in the comments how you feel. What would you change to her kit? But that's it for me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.